I have this fairly popular Ridgid table saw, and it comes with this little 1 horsepower or thereabouts, 1.5 horsepower induction motor. That motor has a starting capacitor, which is this one here, of around 270 microfarads, and a running capacitor of about 15 microfarads. And anyway, this thing was starting hard. It wasn't starting properly, and I right away suspected that it was probably the starting capacitor. It often is. Well, I happen to have a capacitor tester, so I tested it, and it looked okay. So then I happened to have a capacitor laying around that was around the same capacity, and I swapped it, and still the same problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this motor apart for you and show you the starting mechanism in it and what was wrong and how to repair it. Getting the motor apart is not difficult. You just remove these 4 screws, and I don't have a tripod here at the moment, so I'll just take the screws out and we'll come back to you in a moment and show you. Okay, I've just unscrewed them, and you can see you take the nuts off the far end and you just pull them out like this. Now I made a mark on the bell housing and on the can of the motor to know which way it goes together. And then you can just pry, or I actually had to strike it a bit originally to get this bell housing apart. There we are. But it comes apart fairly easily, and yeah, you just pull it off. Now, here's the problem. So you can see this little mechanism here. This is the starting winding arrangement, and basically what it does is when it has a centrifugal clutch on it, these 2 little arms that are a little bit difficult to see, but they fly out when the motor achieves a high enough speed, and that pulls this little mechanism back and forth. Now, that mechanism was free to move, but unfortunately, this little switch, which is pressed in the on position when the motor's trying to start and pops open when that little speed clutch pops it open. That's the thing that actually engages the starting capacitor. Now, it's not difficult to take apart. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out, but it just basically unhinges. You can see there's this little arm is on a hinge, and they've made it quite intelligently so that you can actually pop it apart. And when you do, you'll find, I don't want to take mine back apart again because I've got it working. What you'll find is underneath this little rubber cover here is the contact that is engaged when the motor's trying to start and pops open when the motor isn't trying to start. And I gather they've put this rubber thing around it in order to keep dust from getting in there. Well, it's kind of shit, and dust gets in there anyway. And this motor was just completely packed full of dust after me using it for 20 years. So basically, when I took that little mechanism apart and I took compressed air and I blew the dust out from around the contacts and scraped a little bit with a screwdriver and made sure everything was free to move, I put it all back together again. I pulled this red wire off and used my multimeter to test between the red wire and here to make sure that when it's in this position it's on and when it's in this position it's off, and lo and behold, it worked. Put the motor back together again, it started up like nobody's business. So there was actually nothing wrong with this other than it being dirty. The other thing that I noticed is that there's a little oil hole on this motor. Now, why they would have put a bearing, a bushing that requires lubrication on a motor like this, at the other end there's actually a ball bearing, but they put a bushing at this end, and I gather that it needs lubrication. Now, I haven't lubricated it in 20 years and it doesn't seem to need it. The shaft on the motor is perfectly smooth and everything, but when I put it back together again, I'm just going to make sure I put a little bit of oil in that hole. Anyway, I hope this has been useful to you, and just so that you can see, this is what this motor nameplate looks like. It is, now I said it was a horse and a half, but it doesn't actually tell you what horsepower it is. It just tells you that it's 13 amps at 120 volts. And yeah, it's 13 amps at 120 volts, but boy, it pulls a lot more than 13 amps to start. Especially when the starting winding's not working, it runs like, it pulls current like nobody's business. It was tripping a 20 amp breaker. So there you go. I hope this was useful to you, and